Listen, before we even get into the heart of today's deep dive, let me stop and tell you this real quick. If you're watching this right now, it's not by accident. You're here for a reason. So don't just scroll past, don't half listen while doing something else. Lean in, because what I'm about to break down could literally change how you view your entire portfolio. Now, I always start with this: hit that subscribe button, smash the like, and if you've got even 1 ounce of belief in crypto's future, especially underdog coins that end up shocking the market, then you need to ride with me on this journey. Because this isn't just another hype video. This isn't about me telling you what to do with your money. This is about connecting the dots that 90% of people ignore until it's too late. And with Stellar Lumens, with XLM, I promise you, too many people are sleeping on it. So, let's just get real for a second. Right now, everyone's attention is on the flashy narratives. The ETH ETFs, Bitcoin's having cycle, Solana's meme coin madness, and yes, all the noise about AI tokens. Meanwhile, XLM has been building in the shadows, not chasing headlines but quietly embedding itself into the backbone of global payments infrastructure. And if you know anything about how this space works, it's never the loudest coin that wins long-term. It's the one actually solving boring but billion-dollar problems. And that's exactly where Stellar comes in. Because let's be honest, cross-border payments are broken. The average remittance fee today is still sitting around 6% globally. Think about that. That means if someone in Nigeria is sending $200 back home, $12 evaporates in fees. That's money that should be feeding families, paying school fees, or keeping the lights on gone. And yet, what is Stellar's mission? To bring that down to fractions of a cent, to make money move as easily as an email. That's not hype, that's a human need. Now, fast forward to 2025. We're sitting here in a year where central banks are moving closer to CBDCs, central bank digital currencies. The IMF and World Bank are holding actual conferences on cross-border settlement using blockchain, and the United Nations is openly piloting projects with Stellar to test digital payment rails for humanitarian aid. Yes, you heard me right. While everyone's screaming "when moon" for their favorite meme coin, Stellar is literally in conversations with the world's biggest institutions. This isn't just another crypto coin. This is infrastructure. And here's what I want you to catch. Every single major bull run has its dark horse. That one project people didn't expect. The one that looked boring until suddenly it wasn't. In 2017, it was XRP out of nowhere. In 2021, it was Solana going from a whisper to a roar. So ask yourself, in 2025, when the tide shifts, why couldn't Stellar be that story? This is why today we're breaking down why XLM is not just a coin you buy and flip, but a project you hold like your life depends on it, because the infrastructure it's building, remittances, CBDCs, tokenized assets, humanitarian aid rails, is setting up a foundation that could make its value explode when people finally connect the dots. So if you're ready, let's really peel this thing open. Because I'm telling you right now, if you don't at least understand what Stellar is setting up, you're going to look back in 2, 3, 5 years and say, damn, I had the chance and I slept on it. Stellar in the real world, from theory to action. Alright, so let's cut through the noise real quick. Because here's the thing. Everybody in crypto talks a big game about changing the world and banking the unbanked. But when you actually look under the hood, most of these projects are chasing hype, not solving problems. But Stellar? Stellar is the opposite. They've been quietly grinding in the background, locking in real-world partnerships. And guess what? In 2025, those moves are finally starting to matter. Let's start with the big one, MoneyGram. Yeah, that old-school remittance giant that's been around for decades. They're not just dipping a toe into blockchain anymore. They've gone deep with Stellar. And here's why that matters. MoneyGram processes billions in remittances every single year. Real families depend on their service to send money home. But the fees, the delays, the headaches? Stellar's blockchain is fixing all of that by powering instant USDC settlements across borders. That means someone in the US can send money to Mexico, the Philippines, or Nigeria, and the recipient gets it in seconds, not days, and without losing 6 to 8% to banks. That's not some abstract blockchain fantasy. That's people's lives changing in real time. Now zoom out. MoneyGram is just the start. The United Nations Development Program, UNDP, has been piloting Stellar's network for distributing humanitarian aid. Why? because traditional aid systems are clogged with middlemen, delays, and corruption. With Stellar, digital assets can be delivered straight to people in crisis with transparency and accountability. That's food, medicine, and shelter reaching families faster, powered by the very coin most investors dismiss as boring. And if that doesn't open your eyes, let's talk about CBDCs, central bank digital currencies. A lot of people think CBDCs are years away, but here in 2025, pilots are already live in multiple countries. And who's right in the middle of that conversation? Stellar. The Stellar Development Foundation has been working alongside governments to test CBDCs on their rails. That means entire nations could end up running their future money on the same infrastructure XLM holders are betting on today. But here's the kicker. This isn't just about governments or aid organizations. Stellar is also becoming the bridge for tokenized assets. We're talking about dollars, euros, and even commodities like gold being digitized and moved across Stellar's chain. And when that happens, XLM doesn't just sit there. It becomes the fuel that makes the network function. Every transaction, every bridge, every transfer, XLM is at the core. Now let me ask you this. In a world where the global payments market is projected to hit over $3 trillion in annual revenue by 2030, do you really think Stellar, with all its partnerships and infrastructure, is just going to sit on the sidelines? No way. And this is why I keep saying, it's never the coins with the loudest fan bases that change the system. It's the ones in the boardrooms, in the government meetings, in the NGO contracts, building quietly until the day they're suddenly everywhere. Stellar is that. So the next time someone tries to tell you Stellar is just another altcoin, remind them, no other project is simultaneously handling remittances, CBDCs, tokenized assets, and humanitarian aid all at once. Stellar isn't building hype. Stellar is building the rails for money itself. Stellar versus the competition, why XLM still stands tall. Now, let's be real for a second. Anytime you talk about Stellar, the first thing people love to bring up is, well, isn't that just like Ripple? Isn't that XRP's little cousin? And I get it. Stellar and Ripple have some shared DNA. Both were founded by Jed McCaleb, both are focused on payments, and both are trying to modernize money movement. But let me set the record straight. They are not the same. Ripple's game has always been the banks. High-level deals, lobbying, big financial institutions. Stellar's mission has always been the everyday person. Remittances, humanitarian aid, financial access for the unbanked. So while XRP is chasing multi-billion-dollar banks, Stellar is putting its rails directly into the hands of NGOs, fintechs, and governments that want to connect real people to global payments. It's a different target, a different vibe, and honestly, that's why both can succeed without stepping on each other's toes. Now let's talk about SWIFT. That decades-old messaging system banks still use for cross-border payments. Everyone talks about disrupting SWIFT. But here's the thing. SWIFT isn't just slow. It's outdated. It wasn't built for an instant, global digital world. And you know what's happening right now in 2025? Banks themselves are realizing it. That's why they're exploring blockchain rails, because moving money in seconds instead of days isn't just nice, it's survival. Stellar is built for that shift. Then you've got the crypto-native competition. Solana, for example, is often pitched as the fast, cheap, scalable option. And sure, Solana's got speed, nobody can deny that. But the question isn't just speed. The question is, who are you solving problems for? Solana's mostly about DeFi, NFTs, and high-volume trading. That's cool, but it's not what Stellar is doing. Stellar is about solving money movement problems in the real world. It's not a casino coin, it's a payment rail. And then there's Ethereum. Honestly, Ethereum is like the giant in the room. It's got the dev community, the applications, the recognition. But here's the catch. Ethereum isn't designed to be a global payment system. It's too expensive, too congested, too broad. Stellar is laser-focused on payments. And when you're focused, you don't need to be everything, you just need to be the best at one thing. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Because in 2025, the crypto narrative is shifting. Investors are tired of hype projects that crash and burn. They're looking at fundamentals. Who has adoption? Who has partnerships? Who's being used by real people right now? And that's where Stellar shines. Think of it this way. While other projects are chasing clout on Twitter or hyping the next memecoin pump, Stellar is in boardrooms, in field projects, in government pilots. This is boring to speculators, but it's exactly what gives it staying power. And that's the edge. Because when the dust settles after the hype cycles, only the projects with real-world traction survive. And Stellar isn't just surviving, it's thriving in the very sectors where blockchain adoption is actually happening. Payments, remittances, aid distribution, and CBDCs. So ask yourself this, in 5 years, when blockchain payments are no longer a novelty but the standard, do you want to be holding the project that was chasing NFT drops? Or the one governments and NGOs already trust to move money? I know my answer. The macro picture, why 2025 is the perfect storm for Stellar. Alright, let's zoom out for a second. Because no matter how good Stellar is on its own, timing matters. And honestly, 2025 might be one of the best setups we've ever seen for a project like XLM. Why? Let's break it down. First, the global economy. Inflation, debt crises, and currency instability are back in the headlines. People are losing trust in traditional systems, and governments are scrambling for alternatives. That's where blockchain-based payment rails come in, and Stellar is right in the sweet spot. Second, CBDCs. Whether you like them or not, central bank digital currencies are coming. We've seen pilots in Europe, Asia, Africa, and even Latin America ramping up. And here's the kicker. Many of these governments aren't building from scratch. They're partnering with existing blockchain networks. Stellar has already shown up in these conversations, and that's not by accident. Third, remittances. Right now, the remittance industry is worth hundreds of billions. Migrant workers sending money back home pay ridiculous fees, sometimes 7 to 10%. Stellar can slash that cost to pennies while making transfers almost instant. That's not just a use case, that's a global need. And finally, let's talk market psychology. After the boom and bust cycles of 2021, 2022, and 2023, investors in 2025 are more cautious. They want real-world use, not just promises. Stellar isn't promising, it's delivering. And that makes all the difference when the next wave of mainstream adoption hits. So when you put it all together, shaky global finance, governments rushing to digital rails, remittance networks desperate for solutions, and investors craving fundamentals, you get the perfect storm. And right in the middle of it, Stellar. So let's bring it all home. After everything we've walked through, the technology, the mission, the partnerships, the global timing, I think you can see why I keep saying don't sleep on Stellar. This isn't just another blockchain project floating around in the sea of crypto. This is infrastructure. This is rails for money. This is one of those rare cases where the mission, the technology, and the moment all line up. Think about it. The world is moving fast. Economies are shaking, traditional banking is breaking at the seams, and we're entering an era where money itself is going digital. People are finally realizing that the way we move value today is outdated, slow, expensive, and exclusionary. And Stellar? Stellar is quietly but powerfully positioning itself as the fix. We're not just talking about speculation, about maybe one day this will matter. No, we're talking about real companies, real use cases, real governments already using this tech to move money right now. Stellar is in the trenches, powering cross-border payments, reducing remittance fees, and opening the doors for financial inclusion where it's needed the most. And that's the part one think a lot of people miss. They look at the price chart. They look at market cap rankings. They compare Stellar to Bitcoin or Ethereum like it's supposed to be competing in the same lane. But Stellar has its own lane. Its job isn't to be digital gold. It isn't to be the world computer. Stellar's mission is laser-focused. Make money move across borders as easily as email. And if it does that, even a fraction of it at scale, then the upside is enormous. Now, you might be wondering, but is the timing right? Should I wait until the market dips? Should I wait for some big announcement? And listen, nobody can time the market perfectly. But here's what I can say with confidence. We are at the beginning of a shift. The conversations happening in 2025 about CBDCs, about digital rails, about global remittances, they're not going away. They're only getting louder.